The news and sports departments of the Yale Broadcasting Company present the Bladderball Special. The Bladderball Special, a concise, authoritative, and virtually indisputable account of the history, pageantry, and deep national significance of the annual Dartmouth Weekend Big Ball Classic.
This Saturday morning on the old campus, a crowd of 2,000 is expected to be on hand to witness WYBC's 268th consecutive Bladderball victory since the founding of the sport, and coincidental founding of the university in 1701. Certainly a major factor in this unbroken chain of success has been the team. Each year finds a new crop of golden-voiced titans, ready to brave the autumnal blasts and to roll that sacred sphere more or less at will. How, you may well ask, have the WYBC broadcasting big boys kept up for 267 consecutive games in as many years? The secret is determination, hard drive, grueling practice, and the virtual lack of opposition from anyone else on the field. Tradition dictates that so-called campus organizations send token so-called forces to the contest. These include the so-called banner, the so-called lit, the so-called scientific, the so-called record, and the so-called news. There's always doubt from year to year whether or not anyone will show up from these groups, but they're generally shamed into making an appearance. This year, for the first time, an additional unfortunate group, the so-called Dartmouth College team, has loudly bragged that it too will join in the fray, but even the enthusiastic spontaneity of the Hanoverians is unlikely to really carry them to any such reckless step.
The basic rules of Bladderball are simple enough. Play is officially underway when the WYBC vice chairman leaps to the top of the ball, acknowledges the gathered press, and makes a major policy speech. There is then generally a brief timeout as injured paper journalists are helped from the field. The WYBC men of sound then go through their colorful series of precision drills involving deft passing and dribbling of the 6-foot ball. Amid a tumult of approval, the kilocycle cohorts then toss the bladdered ball across the goal of each opponent. But being true sportsmen, the order of this humiliation is varied from year to year. The game ends when the Yale Broadcasting Company chairman gives his traditional and noble decree of the executive clemency for all opponents, and the robust radio regulars march off in those firm and ordered ranks we've all come to know and love.
A big spectator plus at Bladderball games has always been the pre-competition pageantry as the teams parade onto the field through Phelps Gate. No one will soon forget Dartmouth Weekend of 1947, when typical flooded conditions on the old campus enabled the WYBC team to make its entrance in submarines and amphibious troop carriers. In 1954, the WYBC parade was somewhat abbreviated when Albertus Magnus administration officials retracted their permission to allow the entire student body to march under the station banner. Informed sources would have it that this year there is some concern as to whether the so-called Yale Daily News team will be able to locate enough roller skates and kazoos before the Saturday parade deadline.
But what about the men on this year's big WYBC team? Amid a sparkling field of returning lettermen, there stand out a few key players, certain to add to Saturday's excitement. First of all, there's Gordon crowd-pleasing Toucan Amazing Weingarth, known around the station as WYBC's longest member. Then there's Lee Burn Those Books Mundell, station business manager and a surly brute of an athlete in his own right. Rounding out this year's contingent of mighty microphone men are such stalwarts as Rich I Don't Have a Ducky Sanders, Alan Trust Me on This Zower, Andy What Dirty Commercial Schneer, and Scott I Don't Care McClanahan. True fans of the Big Ball Bash will also be watching for brilliant strategy from the WYBC playbacks: Bill, All This in PR2 Obelil, Kevin, Where's the Beer McCain, and Hughes What Minutes Norton. We're fortunate to have as our guest on the program the coach of WYBC's team, Tom Down the Field Guterbach. Coach Guterbach's rigorous training sessions are something of an innovation in Bladderball history, as each day the Hendry Hall parking lot rings with the shouts of play numbers and the sharp snap of calisthenic drill. WYBC sports reporter Eric von Bladderball spoke with Coach Guterbach earlier this week.
Coach, as you look over this year's lineup, how would you rate the team's offensive maneuvering?
Faster than a speeding bullet.
Aha, I see. And about the staying ability of the front line.
More powerful than a locomotive.
Oh, wonderful. And so, Coach, as far as you're concerned, this year's Bladderball game will be yet another victory for
Truth, justice, and the American way.
Coach, we'd like to thank you and your orchestra for taking time out from a busy schedule and dropping by.
The origins of Bladderball are largely shrouded in myth, but the earliest record of the sport is a Cro-Magnon cave painting in southwestern France. The painting depicts two bands of men in loincloths of different colors vying for possession of what modern scholars have dubbed the Paleo Bladder. Legend would have it that the 100 Years' War was not really fought over Gascony or Flanders. Far from it. The real foundation of the struggle was the contested ownership of two bladderballs located in these otherwise insignificant provinces. Of course, we all are familiar with the king's famous line in Shakespeare's Richard III, "My kingdom for a bladderball." The bladderball came to America with either Christopher Columbus or Leif Erikson. No one is really sure, but everyone seems to have a rather firm opinion. In any event, the bladderball soon became an integral part of the American tradition. Who is not stirred by the patriotic call, "Rally round the bladderball, boys"? This proud heritage has culminated in the bladderball game as we know it today.
For those of our listeners who have never actually witnessed a bladderball game, it may not be easy to imagine the high excitement and colorful pageantry of bladderball at its best. Last year's game, despite the heavy rain and clumsy maneuvering of WYBC's opponents, saw an exceptional display of flawless form, driving determination, and extraordinary execution on the part of the turntable teammates. In this treasured recording from the WYBC archives, we hear ace sportscaster Ken DeVoe giving the play-by-play of the game's climactic moment as the Harkness Tower Carillon tolls out a victory fanfare for the once more victorious Multiplex Marauders.
Here they come, aiming toward the High Street gate. This is the big moment of the game, ladies and gentlemen. The campus cops are standing by. One door is closed. They seem to have locked the other door now, and they're going to try and get it outside. This is the big surge as they're trying to get it up, and no, they didn't get it over. They're still batting it up, and they can't seem to get it over. This is really tremendous, friends. Tremendous action here. There it is, over the fence. And here's the fight now. The campus cops over the fence, over the High Street fence. The cops have grabbed it. They're moving toward their truck, getting it inside, beating away the students inside the truck. If they're going to have to get it up in a hurry. Look out. Watch it now. There it is. It is in the truck, and the game looks like it's over. WYBC has done it again, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to have down from the locker room in just one moment from Jay Feldman, the chairman of WYBC, with a victory statement. Jay.
I'd like to say that the other teams fought hard, but WYBC triumphed. And I just want to say that they fought hard, but they lost. The WYBC wins its 268th victory in Bladderball, and thank you, thank you, thank you.
WYBC had won once more, and history turned another page, but not before another crop of AM athletes had left their mark upon it. Jeff Mongol Horde Minkus, still breathless from another epoch-making performance, had these final words for his many radio fans.
I just want to say that we had it all the way, Mel. Looked kind of rough there for a while, but we knew all along that as the past 268 years, we'd come out on top. Thank you, Mel.
There's always a debate among studio sturdies as to whether or not it's worth the time to bother to show up for the one-sided annual event at all. But the call of tradition is strong and respected. Letters of challenge generally arrive at the WYBC studios during the pre-game week, and while the so-called Daily News has this year, in keeping with that organization's history of cowardice and yellow journalism, failed to even challenge the WYBC men of sound to do battle, we do have on file a recent literary masterpiece from the pen of one L. Davis. We present that so-called challenge verbatim.
The line is drawn, the team is set. We're going to win that game, you bet. At Bladderball we have no peer. Of YBC we have no fear. Though you're FM and we're offset, we think that you will fast regret acceptance of this gauntlet thrown by bladder bruisers of renown.
Oh, stop it. I can't stand it any longer.
The Bladderball Special has been presented by the News and Sports Departments of the Yale Broadcasting Company as a public service. Bladderball is coming. Be there Saturday morning at 10:45 a.m. on the old campus, or join Ken DeVoe on WYBC 640 for the live play-by-play broadcast from the field.